spring. Special moments and people from the 1981-82 Hawkeye basketball season is being brought to you by Budweiser. For all you do, this Bud for you.
Looking back on a basketball season, it's easy for the whole picture to become a blur. What we tend to remember are the times when the game's intensity and excitement explode together to create a frozen moment in our memory, a freeze frame. Tonight we'll be bringing some of those moments together. Sharm Scheuerman and Lute Olson look back at the ups and downs of the past season. We'll salute the careers of the graduating seniors, Kenny Arnold, Kevin Boyle, and Jon Darsee. Sharm will pick a team that he would love to coach, and there'll be a farewell to the field house featuring the comments of men who have watched many fine Hawkeye teams play there. Freeze frame. In order for a memory to be frozen, there has to be a good reason. How about a coach who has won as many basketball games in his career at Iowa as any other, Coach Lute Olson. In building a winning program, it takes a special kind of leader with unique abilities. To pinpoint those elements of success, we spoke with several people that have followed Lute's progress at Iowa. Gus Schrader, who recently co-authored a book about the Olson years, gave us an insight into the man behind the program.
Lute's quite a complex person, and one of the things that we were fascinated, his father died when he was very young, I think 5 or 6 years old. And then immediately thereafter, just a few years after that, his older brother was killed in a farm accident. And I think Bobby thinks, and I agree with her, that this made Lute Olson at an early age become very independent and dependent on himself, to support himself and to take care of himself and control his emotions and things. I think that's been a great factor in Lute's success. He was really reliant on himself and his upbringing.
In the past, Iowa basketball had intermittent seasons of greatness surrounded by longer periods of drought. To build a self-sustaining tradition of success requires, among other things, many hours on the road.
He is, I think, a great worker. If you were around Lute Olson when you recruits, this guy recruits 25 hours a day, 8 days a week, 32 days a month.
Most coaches recruit or try to recruit great basketball players. Lute Olson recruits good basketball players who are great people. And I think that's very important. He does have quality kids. While good recruiting may be the first step to success, the follow-through requires any number of other elements.
I think his coaching is very intense. It's illegal to coach outside from October until October 15th until your last game. But Lute overcomes this problem by setting things up so his players can play pick-up games, and he's not allowed to be there to watch them and to coach them. But that's no sign he can't meet with them off the court and tell them things that they ought to work on. So his coaching goes on just about 12 months a year.
He's a great fundamental coach, and so he brought that. Now, even the years when he didn't have great players, he still had teams that were good teams. He had contending teams a lot of those years. And so I think, strictly as you ask from the coaching standpoint, it's the way he approaches the game fundamentally. And the other thing is that I think he's a very good bench coach. He seems to be able to make these adjustments and under the pressure because of his experience, I think, because he's been at it so many years and he's come up, as I said, up through the ranks. I see those two things as his greatest asset inside the basketball coaching area.
Lute sees the game and knows it inside out, and in this manner, he reminds me of Forrest Everett. He has a football coach who can take in the whole scope of the game, and most of us can see only here. Again, he does have the ability to know how you win and lose ball games and why. That the important thing tonight was we did not go to the offensive boards well enough, or our guard play was not good enough, or it was the turnovers which beat us, or everybody is talking about the shot that didn't fall in the last minute, but it was the first 8 minutes which beat us. He was outstanding in that manner.
I think some of the reasons that Coach Olson's been so successful is that he had disciplined ball teams. He himself is an intelligent person, and he's disciplined himself. And I think that reflects on the style of play that the Hawks play. Sometimes I think in the past we weren't the most talented teams, but we won because we were determined and we were hustlers, and we used some smarts out on the court. And, you know, I think Coach O molded us into that style of play every day in practice. He was the type of guy who everyone respected on the team. When he wanted to get something across, he didn't have to go into tantrums. He said it. He would raise his voice a little bit, but he wouldn't go off swearing or anything like that. And I think slowly you build up more respect for a guy like that day by day. And you want to play harder for someone like that.
I think the key is how well the coaching staff is close to the players here at Iowa. And that's why I think it's been a success.
Lute's ability to bring young men together. We find this rather fascinating, and I think any basketball program that succeeds has to have it. You have to have almost a love for each other, the players. They have to meld, they have to interact, they have to enjoy each other, live together. And this is...
As for the future at Iowa, everyone we spoke with had the same positive opinion.
Oh, I don't see anything but more success, because he's done a good, solid recruiting job, not just bringing in a bunch of junior college kids or a bunch of one great class, but he's got his program stabilized now, so he brings in 3 kids a year, and this is ideal. You have a 12-man squad, and you have 3 seniors, 3 juniors, 3 sophomores, and 3 freshmen, and Lute does not believe in big squads. He knows that promotes maybe a little jealousy, and you get malcontents who aren't playing, and so I think Lute has done just about everything he can to ensure that his program will not have a weakness.
Oh yeah, I think this thing is on a level now where it's going to stay there. I think Iowa will be is a steady postseason tournament team. They'll be contending in the NCAA. As long as Lute Olson is at Iowa, the program is going to be at this level. No doubt in my mind.
'81. Let's hear some of your thoughts on the upcoming season.
Well, as we discussed, I think at the first press conference, that this was going to be a team that would be a very exciting team. It would be exciting because there would be a lot of ups and downs. There'd be times that we would play extremely well. There would be times that we would not play very consistently, which I indicated at the time was not the usual type of thing to expect from an Iowa team. I think if there's been one thing about the teams in the past is that they have been fairly predictable. They've been pretty consistent in terms of their efforts. But that this year, with our having lost that entire front line from the team the year before, with Brookins, Wade, and Crafterson gone, that we would have a number of holes to fill, and we'd have a number of young people who would be playing that would not have the experience to give you the consistency. And as a result, I recall my statement that will be exciting, but it'll be exciting for the fans, but not very exciting for the coaching staff, that we would probably make more mistakes than what we were accustomed to making, that we would have some inconsistencies that always goes with the inexperience, and that I felt our squad would be, the young people would be very talented in nature, and that eventually they would develop into great players at the University of Iowa, but that not so much should be expected of them to put too much pressure on them in the early going. We had, some things to put our hat on as far as Kevin Boyle and Kenny Arnold had. They were experienced Big Ten and tournament-tested players that we knew would do a good job of providing leadership for us. We felt that Bobby Hansen would probably come back and give us the kind of year that we expected following his freshman year, where his sophomore year he had problems at the end of the season with a stress fracture in the foot, had a knee injury prior to the start of the season, so his sophomore year was was really not the kind of sophomore year that would lead you into expecting great things necessarily of him as a junior. Mark Gannon, we indicated at that time, had an exceptional freshman year up until the time of the knee injury that took place in the second Big Ten game at Michigan. And then his sophomore year, he was really looking good in preseason practice. Had a re-injury of the old knee injury. Came back and started playing quite well, and then he had the flu where he lost 17 pounds, and his Big Ten season was not what we had anticipated. So I think I referred to those two guys as being real keys to us, that if we were going to have a good year, then it was going to have to be a case of Hansen and Gannon playing to the way we knew that they could play, and that they'd have to stay relatively injury-free again to give us a full year instead of segments of years. We felt that Steve Carfino would play very well, that I had seen some things in the summer sports festival at Syracuse that certainly indicated he was ready to come into his own as a player. Our young people, of course, we were anticipating Payne and Stokes and Birkenpass being fine players, but being fine freshman players. That Denard might be a guy that would give us that experienced player from junior college that could give us a lift. Of course, not knowing that we were going to run into the pretty much of a washout with Jerry because of the back operation at Thanksgiving that meant that he missed out on a whole lot of the things in the preseason that you needed to have accomplished, and also, even more importantly, he missed out on the non-conference games where you can play a lot of people and then start indicating what your pecking order will be as you get into the Big Ten season. But overall, I think I think we called it pretty much as it turned out to be. That we were consistently inconsistent. We had our moments of greatness, and we had some other moments that I'm sure all of us would like to forget about. But overall, about the way we expected, probably went a little bit better, actually, than what we expected it would go.
In fact, Lute, I thought we were playing awfully well in the early ball games. The loss of Bobby Hansen in the Houston tournament hurt them quite a bit, though.
Well, there's no question it hurt us because, in the team the year before, one of the things that we had sort of been missing since we had lost Ronnie Lester the previous year was that one guy that we could go to when things got real tough. I didn't think we had that on the 80-81 ball club, and I really felt that Bobby Hansen was one of those guys that you could really throw it on his shoulders and say, Bobby Hansen's the guy that can get it done. Of course, at that point, he was averaging, I think, somewhere around 16 points a ball game. He was shooting for the good percentage. His defense early in the year had been suspect, but then I had sat him down at one point and started somebody else and just indicated that it was not fair to Bobby or to the team to allow him to play at less than his full speed. And he was playing very, very well. That was a big jolt, I thought, to our ball club when he was lost at that point.
The three seniors, Kenny Arnold, Kevin Boyle, and Jon Darsee, showed a lot of leadership this year. Arnold and Boyle, as co-captains, demonstrated it on the court, and Darsee, at 23, the old man to his younger teammates, gave support behind the scenes. Now that their basketball careers as Hawkeyes are over, we wondered how they felt about their years at Iowa.
I'm happy. I'm happy of 4 years I've participated in the program here. It sure went quick. I remember being a freshman, how long the year was, and just speed it up to your sophomore, junior, and your senior year. It just goes by so quick. It's a shame in a way, because I think I've enjoyed it so much. I wish I had another year to play.
First of all, it's kind of amazing how fast 4 years ago, I can remember, like, when I was a freshman and everything like that. And first day me and Kevin got here at Iowa, we were just the young guys of the team, right now we're the veterans. And
this year, I look at it from the very start as a real challenge because of all the young people that we have. And I find myself, I'm the old man on the team. I'm 23 and everyone else is, a lot of the guys are 18 and 19. And so I look at it, I have a lot of responsibility to help the kids not only on the court but off the court. Adjusting to the college life of the first year in college is difficult for anyone, and I think it's even more difficult for an athlete. A lot of people don't realize the difficulties that we have, and they think that everything is given to us, which a lot of things are, and they think that everything comes easy to us, but it's just not the case, because you have the burden in the classroom and the burden on the floor, and your time is so much is demanded of you that it makes it so much more difficult for you to achieve the things that you have to achieve, such as your grades and to excel on the floor, too.
Yeah, let's see what happens. 14 seconds to play in the game. Maybe not in the game. At least in regular. He got an advantage. Boyle looks to wait. Oh, what a move. And he was fouled. Steve Wade goes to the basket. The score goes.
Looking back over their years at Iowa, the seniors seem to remember 1980 best, when under the leadership of Ronnie Lester, they went to the Final Four.
I think that's probably the most memorable years, because we did go to the Final Four. And the time we returned here to the field house, and it was 12 o'clock at night, and there was 15,000 people here waiting for us for a reception. So, you know, it still stays in the back of my mind. And, you know, I think at that time when we went to the Final Four, everything was just working our way. Vince Brookins had a great regional, East Regional. Ronnie returned back from his knee injury, and he gave us the leadership that we needed.
I think my sophomore year was my most exciting because I won the MVP, most valuable player in that Dayton Invitational tournament around Christmas time, and I had a pretty good year that year. I had 142 assists. I led the team in assists, and I led the team in scoring that year. So up to that point, I thought that was my best year I played here so far.
Coming into the 80-81 season, there was speculation that it would be even better than the previous year. But the final games put those thoughts to rest.
It was a little disappointing at the end of the year. We lost our last 3 games, and, you know, we kind of closed it on a bad note. But if you looked at the overall picture, it was a good year for the Hawks. And it was just kind of sad to see some of the guys go, like Krafts and Wader and Vince and some of the other guys.
Last year was a good year. We went 21-7, and each of the 4 years that I've been here, we won 20 games so far. So I think that's a pretty good accomplishment, and it's a real great honor.
And this year, although good overall, again had close, heartbreaking losses at the end.
You know, I think the last few games in the Big Ten are always rough to win on the road. My freshman and sophomore year, we had our final 2 games at home, and I think you win at least one of those 2 games, and you can carry some momentum into the tournament. And I think that's what we were struggling with when we went into the tournament. We played Northeast Louisiana. We were motivated for the game. We were ready to go, but yet I think subconsciously we didn't have the confidence that we needed.
We had a good year, but I really want to go further in the tournament. I think it's nothing to be ashamed of, because we had a pretty good year. The 4 years I've been here, we won 20 or more games and 4 NCAA tournament bids. So my career here, me and Kevin's career has been real great.
After the only non-conference loss to Houston, we played Drake, South Carolina, in preparation for the upcoming Big Ten season.
But we played, as I said when we played Drake, that they were a better ball club than they were the previous year. A lot of people sort of scoffed at that at that point, but I think that was proven that they were, and Coach Garner did a great job. They were a disciplined ball club, and we did well to win that ball game, I thought. We went on the road then to South Carolina and played very well in a difficult place to play. I thought we showed excellent team discipline, and we controlled the basketball game pretty much from beginning to end down there. So the non-conference season, where I figured we'd probably come out maybe 5-4, we came out with only the loss to Houston in the Houston tournament.
The schedule in the first half of the Big Ten certainly favored the Hawks.
Yeah, and I thought that would, that would be a good thing for us, because I felt the first half of the league, we would, with the younger people, looking at it prior to the year, with our younger people, it would be better if it were a little softer the first round, and by the second round that they'd be more ready to handle it. Also, of course, I didn't realize that we were going to run into a problem with Hansen where, Bobby really didn't come back from that foot injury to play the way he had played before the foot injury until I thought maybe the last 2 weeks of the season was when he actually it came about when he finally threw away that metal brace that he had in his shoe, because he couldn't move defensively to get the things done the way they had to be done in our system. But he came back and really played well at the end. But we got through the first round. We may not have been good, but we were lucky. We were on the road at that point at Minnesota, of course, and we lost at Minnesota, which was not. We certainly had a chance in that ball game, but if you would look ahead at the schedule and say where are the places that this young team will have problems, you'd certainly have to point to Minnesota. And I know when we went into that weekend, we obviously hoped that we could come out with 2, but yet from a realistic standpoint, if we could come out 1-1, we'd be in pretty good shape. We got beat at Minnesota, and then of course we went on to Wisconsin and won handily at Wisconsin against a very young and inexperienced Wisconsin team. Following that, we went on the road for 2 more road games, and we beat Northwestern when we were, in that case, very lucky. When Kenny Arnold hit the shot with 8 seconds left, their only lead in the game came in the final 8 seconds of the ball game. We then went on the road again. The next road game was at Michigan State, which had been a place that had been very difficult, not only for my teams to win, but for past Iowa teams to win also. And came away there with a 1-point win that, again, could have gone in either direction, and we did that without Michael Payne in the lineup, as you recall, with the foot injury that he had sustained against Michigan. And Greg Stokes came in and did a really sound job for us. But in the first half of the league, we played at the most difficult place to play probably this year, being Minnesota was the league champ and the experienced preseason pick to win the league. But the other league games were at the team that finished 10th, the team that finished 9th, the team that finished 8th. Well, in those 3 games, we beat the 10th place team easily. We won by 1 at the team that finished 9th and at the 1 at the team that finished 8th. So I knew going into the second round of league, and I think I reported it saying this, that we need, if we're going to be a legitimate contender, we need a considerable margin by the end of the first round, because the second round schedule for the Hawks is going to be much, much more difficult than the first round.
The second half of the Big Ten started with a toughie at Ohio State.
Yeah, and that was a real up game for us. We had beaten Indiana, I believe, at our place to finish the first round, and Michael Payne had come back from that injury, and actually we did not expect him for that weekend, but he came back against Indiana and played well, and then, of course, at Ohio State we started Stokes again, but Payne came in and had the season high of 25 points against Ohio State. We were a pretty good team, and Ohio State was also a pretty good team. But again, it was a case of a 1-pointer that could have gone in either direction. But we did get by at Ohio State, and that was probably one of our best games of the year in terms of certainly at least road games.
You know, as a coach, you can't help but think ahead a little bit to what's going to be coming back next year. If you were coaching, who would you like to have on a ball club to compete anywhere in the country? We've taken the top 5 that we think would be just a great team to coach. I'm going to begin with an outstanding freshman guard, Eric Turner from Michigan. Eric is a great passer, absolutely one that has fantastic court sense. He shoots well, and I think that Eric Turner, with another year under his belt, is going to be an all-Big Ten selection, and in a couple of years, there's going to be some talk about Eric Turner being All-American. Our selection for the off guard or second guard is Sam Vincent from Michigan State. He would complement Eric Turner because he is a fine shooter, he penetrates well, he's strong, he could play the defense on the bigger guard, and I think again, has tremendous potential, and you're going to be hearing a lot from him as a possible All-American selection. A surprise center selection on our freshman team is Uwe Blab from Indiana. Uwe is 7'2", plays a lot like Randy Brewer from Minnesota when he was a freshman. However, I think he plays harder. I would love to see a 7'2" center of mine going after a loose ball on the floor the way Uwe does. He's very aggressive, and I think in a year or two, again, you're going to hear a great deal from him. I like his heart. The top forward selection is Iowa's own Michael Payne. Michael next year will be playing outside. He will not have the pressure of trying to battle these big centers inside. Michael's position is either the number 3 or number 4 forward spot. By that I mean out facing the basket. He'll still be used in Lute Olson's triangle, but he is smooth, he's smart, and playing a forward position, he'll be able to utilize his talents a lot better. For the 5th position, you could go to fellows like Corey Blackwell of Wisconsin, Brad Sellers, who's 6'11", and was the second leading rebounder in the Big Ten. You could take fellows like that. You could go to Flowers from Indiana. However, as kind of a sleeper, a surprise, we're going to put Iowa's own Greg Stokes in that 5th position. Greg, if Uwe Blab comes around on our all-dream team as freshmen, Greg would be playing the power forward. He would be playing a little bit like Michael Payne, where he could come out to the free throw line, face the basket. He would be a dominant factor inside, and with one more year under his belt, Greg Stokes is going to be some kind of player. So there you have our all-Big Ten dream team as freshmen. Let's follow in the next 2 or 3 years and see how accurate we are. After the win against Northwestern at home, the Hawks had to go to Indiana.
Yeah, we, after the Ohio State game, we came back home, and I think at that point, maybe it was a case that people were expecting that this was a great team instead of a young, inexperienced team that had been pretty fortunate in some places to come out alive, namely Michigan State and Northwestern and the Ohio State game. We could just as well at that point have lost 3 rather than winning those 3. But there seems to be a thing about close games that you can be lucky for a while, but if you play enough close ones, why, eventually things are going to even out. And of course, we went to Indiana. Well, we came back home after that Ohio State game and played Northwestern here. And I think that's when the guys started losing a little bit of confidence that we beat Northwestern by the largest amount that any Big Ten team had beaten them. But yet the question started coming up, what's wrong with the Hawks? What's happening? They don't look like they're playing as well. Well, see, all of a sudden, instead of looking at them as a young team that's going to have to play well and have a little luck to win, suddenly it's a case of, they don't look like they're playing well. Well, then, as soon as kids start hearing this and start reading this, before long they start wondering, well, gee, I wonder if there is something wrong with this. Well, we went to Indiana and I thought played very well through about, I think it was 36, 30, let me go back, maybe about 30 minutes, where it was a game where it was a 4-point, 5-point type ball game. Never with us with the upper hand, but always with us within striking range. And then Indiana pulled away from us, and of course in the late going, you could keep it under 10 if you wanted, but you really are there to win. So we started getting fouls. They hit free throws in late stages, and we ended up losing at Indiana. Following that, we came back home, and Michigan State was a team that had not lost to anybody by any amount all year long. And yet, I think we beat them here in a relatively close game. I forget whether it ended up maybe around 6 points or thereabouts. But again, what's wrong with the Hawks? Well, that was a good win for us. Michigan State would go on to give everybody else a great deal of difficulty also. But yet, again, it seemed like the expectations that, not only should you win, but you should win by large scores. And I thought I could start seeing the difference on our guys. We weren't shooting quite as well anymore. We weren't shooting with the same kind of confidence that we had shot at some of the previous stages of the Big Ten season. And then, of course, the game that we'll probably look back on and say that this was the one that really cost us was the loss at Michigan. And the only game, I think, all year long that I could look back on and say I'm disappointed in the way that we played, because we were not sharp to start the ball game. And as I indicated at that time, that's our job, to get them ready to play. And yet we weren't sharp. We turned the ball over 10, 11 times, which was about our average for the year for the full game. We turned the ball over 10 or 11 times in the first 8 or 10 minutes of that ball game, got ourselves in a hole, and then we got them back in the locker room at halftime and got them moving a little bit, came out and tied the ball game, actually went ahead, and then ended up making a couple, 3 critical mistakes again that led to our demise. Although to Michigan's credit, they shot the absolute lights out from 22 to 27 feet. We came into the Wisconsin game, then, I thought, in an excellent frame of mind. We played really well. We shot, 50, 60%. So I thought we probably had them pulled back together again. And, of course, we had the Minnesota game on that big Saturday for what would have been a share of the Big Ten title. We played well. We had plenty of opportunities. Actually, one of the things that hurt us all year long was our inconsistency at the free throw line, and that certainly contributed to that thing ever going into an overtime situation. But we had our opportunity at the end of the regulation play, and Randy Brewer made a great play for Minnesota. Otherwise, Iowa would have clinched a share of the Big Ten title with 2 games to go, because Arnold had the lay-in on a back cut and put it up toward the spot on the board where it was obvious it was going in, and Brewer came and made a great play. Then we got into the overtime situation, and as a coach as I do, that the one thing you want to put your players in position to do is to win, but not to lose. And so in the first overtime, I think Minnesota controlled the tap and held the ball for an extended period of time. Finally, we ended up with the ball back and put it away for the last minute and a half or whatever, and got the ball for what I think would have been a good shot. The pass was slightly mishandled, and then as Bobby went up for the jump shot, the Minnesota player made a great defensive play, stripped him of the ball, and that was the first overtime. And then, of course, the second overtime, we got the last shot. The third overtime, we also were in position to get the last shot that was taken a little early. And then, of course, the controversy surrounding the final seconds of that. But there was a case of a Minnesota team pretty much intact from the previous year that had beaten us by 12 at the Iowa Fieldhouse the previous year, that we really had 4 chances to beat them in that ball game. But at that point, then, the complexion of the race changed, because Minnesota now was in the driver's seat with the tie and 2 final games at home. whereas we had to go on the road for 2 very difficult games at difficult places to play. But when we hit Illinois at Illinois, we played through about 30 minutes about as well as we could ever play. I mean, probably better than we had any right to expect them to play. And then we ran into our problems, and it just seemed like the whole bottom dropped out in the final few minutes. Again, then going on from there to Purdue, still with a chance. If Minnesota lost against Ohio State, still a chance for a piece of the Big Ten title. Again, a big problem is the mental aspect of it. You know, how many of these can they take before they just can't get themselves back up to play again? And I thought we played probably as well against Purdue, at Purdue, as we have, again, played all year long. But we got down to the, you know, we had a lead, we lost some of that lead, we regained some, and then we got down to the final stages of that ball game where, you know, the Iowa fans saw what occurred. I didn't think, I thought our guys played with tremendous courage and under some very difficult situations and circumstances, and I, as I indicated after that ball game, I did not feel the better team won. I didn't feel that both teams were given the same opportunity, and I think, thank goodness for television, because everyone that watched that certainly had an opportunity to see what I was talking about. It was not an equal opportunity for both teams, but I guess with Minnesota's win at home